Good people, by now, dual chamber cases are kind of old news, right? Unless it can do this. I love this confidence, but also we have to test it and to see if it's actually real tempered glass. And I'm writing something that is significantly lighter than the advertised 2.4 tons. I have faith. Do you? Let me know in the comments.
It was at this moment that he knew.
I heard a pop. What? They did say if I punctured my tire, they would get me a new car. Damn it. I should not have used the mouse pads. We know that this is real tempered glass that we're dealing with because it's shattered in million tiny pieces. That was one of the most exciting parts of my day. Huge thanks to Montech for partnering with us on that glass ride, huh? But in all seriousness, Montech is bringing some heat with the King 95. The dual chamber category right now is very saturated, lots of competition, but they seem to be on the higher price category. So the King 95, that's where it kind of lives in the budget territory, but with some really cool features under the hood as well. This is the first enclosure that I've seen to come with reversed fans. They're not that abundant in individual fan category, but to be included on the Pro model is actually pretty legit. The Pro has 6 fans total, 1 rear exhaust fan, standard 120 mil, 3 intakes at the bottom, which are reversed, 120 mils, and 2 intake on the side, which are 140 mils. It's a very thoughtful inclusion on a case that is all about the showcase, but you know, it's not like a terrible RGB fan either. Like the diffusion is nice and thick, so the actual diffusion color element is nice and uniform, and it also matches in brightness to the case lighting built in that is a bit thicker, but still very uniform throughout. And multiple effects are included and stuff, so everything can kind of cohesively look together and not patched up, especially because the Pro model also has the fan hub with ARGB controller, and the fans spin at 1600 RPM, both sizes, both 140s and 120s. That means there's not going to be any inconsistencies in RPM when you power it via the PWM cable. Although one inconsistency with the fans is that 140 sizes have the middle sticker, 120s don't. What's up with that? But how these case fans perform is another story for later in the video. Thousand RPM is real quiet. Of course, the curved TG is another standout feature where a few other things revolve around this front panel. Now, first of all, doing curved TG is very difficult because the yields are low, and so Montech being able to deliver on a mass-produced sample that is that well priced is actually pretty impressive. So the yields must be high enough for them to target that 109 price point. It's also a very different thing on the aesthetics point of view because most dual chambers have that nice hard corner, but here we have the curved panoramic view. In reality, it does not reveal too much because of the curve, you know, the light bends through it, so it's not exactly visible what's like behind it, but it is a cool thing to look at on the exterior. And luckily, the whole curved nature extends to other exterior elements. So the right side where your I/O is also has the exact same curvature angle. The top panel follows the line of the whole front structure, and you even notice a little waviness in this ventilation pattern on the top and the side panels that all bring to a very beautiful cohesive design. So you can kind of tell they've borrowed some things from what Height has delivered with the exterior panels, what NZXT has done with the curvature in the past, and it all looks pretty decent on the King 95. The ventilation pattern on the interior is just round, but at least it's round in all the ventilated areas. So the interior ventilation is consistent and the exterior is too. So I would say it's a pass for me. The reason they advertise the toughness of the glass is to bring attention to the curve in the first place, and also maybe remove some of that skepticism that is maybe associated with curvature of the glass being not as tough and maybe cracking in shipment or whatever. But on both my samples, I mean, I'm missing one now. Both of them were pretty flawless, and the curvature on both panels was identical, at least to my eye. Included in the box is a swappable metal mesh panel with good enough porosity. You know, you blow through it, you can feel air coming through. They're extremely easy to swap, so getting inside and starting to work with the enclosure is actually incredibly easy. And the reason why you want to use the metal mesh panel, in case your glass one breaks when you ride over it with a car, is that they're now introducing this patented front side fan panel that can rotate from the side position to the front, and now you can have this standard sort of configuration for front airflow delivery, including the side, because we still have those fan mounts on the storage bracket at the back, and therefore you can still utilize all the fan slots in the enclosure as before, but now with this a very totally different look for your dual chamber configuration. Lian Li has done that with the O11D Evo, but that's an optional accessory, versus with the King 95, that mesh is included in the package.
Be ready to be captivated by a fusion of vivid colors, deeper blacks, and a wicked fast 240Hz refresh rate with Corsair's Xeneon Flex gaming monitor, featuring the world's first bendable OLED display in a stunning 45-inch WQHD ultra-wide aspect ratio. Immerse yourself in gaming and other productive tasks. You get all the extra goodies for ultimate speed and precision within a game, get quick access to a few USB ports at the front and plenty of other display connectivity options at the back, and all this tech is backed with their advanced burn-in protection and a 3-year warranty. If you're looking to flex your gaming setup, look no further than Corsair's Xeneon Flex. Learn more down below.
Some minor caveats around that fan bracket is that you need to remove the bottom fan in order for it to swivel, otherwise it hits it. And also, the actual swivel mechanism has 2 positions. The thing is held in with 2 thumb screws, and we also have cable channels on the bracket itself, so you can cleanly route regardless of its orientation on the side or the front. I find it really interesting that this thing is patented, but also I thought, why not just create a separate bracket that would install at the front like Lian Li does? But having that swivel bracket means you have a really good point of contact in the corner and away from stuff where all the panels and frame would be visible. Now the color options are definitely more than your mainstream black and white, but the blue and red are a little bland. I love the red and how striking it is, but the blue is a little too blue for me. I prefer something a bit more teal. I would love to see some gradient experimentation, new textures, because once you go into the color territory, you know, with this type of blue and red, it's difficult to color match with your hardware already. So the color of the enclosure becomes the highlight of your system, for example, or one of the main highlights already. That is something that I would love case brands to do. Remove the primary from your arsenal of color and move into something more funky. I mean, they already charge extra premiums for color options anyway, so why not zhuzh it up? Now on the interior, things are pretty basic, but a few interesting things to notice. Number one, I love the fully removable top panel for 360 radiator support, so you can pop everything in there and lower the whole thing in position, installing it from the top like it should be. The side fan bracket, aside from going to the front, can be removed completely if you need all that width for the side for really thick set of fans and push-pull configurations, but otherwise a standard radiator and a fan will fit no problem in that whole side cavity without interacting with your motherboard or the GPU. There's no removable fan bracket at the bottom. Instead, you mount the fans directly into the bottom of the case with the long screws. So that's easier because you install them from the main chamber and don't have to tip the whole case over to mount fans from the bottom. But it makes things a little bit complicated with compatibility if you don't have long screws. You can see the case is very well elevated and everything is dust proof. We have a massive removable dust filter at the bottom and dust filters that are built in into the top and the side panels that are not removable. But they are that high performance, high airflow dust filter, which is awesome. It's just that you have a lot of other plastic material and the metal that is blocking some of the intake and exhaust because of the design aspects, so that's something to live with. Also, you'll notice the top panel doesn't sit flush against the frame. That's because there's a bit of a ventilation gap. I would say CPU tower height is perfectly adequate and GPU length is perfectly adequate as well. It does shorten a little bit if you move that side bracket to the front. And radiator support is perfectly fine, up to 360 at the top, up to a 280 on the side. It's pretty good for this size of enclosure. We have an additional storage bracket that you can install at the bottom that will house 3 SSDs or 3 hard drives. In case you don't want to use that for intake. And on some GPUs, the intake at the bottom doesn't really help so much. So it's good to have this included option for more drives instead. It's also really impressive at how rigid the frame is. There's absolutely no flexing on that corner when the side panels are removed, which is really hard to find. Fantex has done a really good job with this, and now Montech has too. And going to the back, we have a few really interesting things here. So first of all, opening this swivel bracket that is both your storage bracket for 2 SSDs or your fan bracket for additional side ventilation if you decide to mount the original swivel side bracket to the front. We have a power supply at the bottom, and above it is additional storage for 2 hard drives or 2 SSDs that can also be removed completely for an additional power supply if you're going for either 2 power supplies or you want the only power supply at the top. Despite its small size, this is one of the most stiff metal panels of this category. Like it's really, really sturdy, and I'm glad that it's not like bending everywhere. And once you close it, it actually compresses your cables so you can easily close that side panel without no problem. And here you also find that nicely tucked away hub for fans and ARGB, which is awesome because you can connect other accessories to it if you wish, and everything will be nicely synced up. We also have a plastic toolbox wall dividers that are labeled, which is very convenient. Thank you, Montech. Overall, I think the King 95 really delivers on that initial promise of giving us something unique in the dual chamber category while having a really affordable and attractive price of $109 for the black model without the fans, but also spanning all the way to $169 for the color variations on the Pro model. So the entire price spectrum is quite wide with the King 95 and King 95 Pro. Now, as for airflow performance, it's not that great. Even though we have 6 fans included on the Pro model, the temperatures on the CPU side are, they're fine, but on the GPU side, that's when things get a little iffy and a little too hot. But then we also have the front mesh panel, which is a really good way to reduce your temperatures by a few degrees. And even swapping out the fans for something a little bit more powerful would absolutely give you a much better performance, because the included fans, even though they spin at 1600 RPM, they're very beautiful and they perform mediocrely, but they're not the best, highest performing fans, especially the reverse kind. So Montech truly delivered something of a hybrid with the King 95 that not only looks, I would say, fantastic, but performance can be made better with better quality fans, and if you use that mesh panel, and especially focus on exhaust. And that's something that you can always experiment with, especially because we have triple exhaust options for the top here. All right, guys, let me know what you think of the King 95 in the comments, and would you be considering getting one maybe in the new year if you're building a new system? Let me know in the comments. I'm Dmitry. I'll talk to you in the next video.